Charlie McDowell's The One I Love is in my top 10 weirdest but most unique films I've ever seen. Imagine if Vivarium was a dark comedy is kinda how I see it. You take a couple struggling with a relationship and you put them in an otherworldly situation, and by using the bottle movie format, you isolate yourself with these characters in the most up close and personal way. Bottle episodes in movies, if you didn't already know, are stories that are set in one location and when done right can be an extremely immersive and intimate experience. But when done wrong, like many, the audience gets bored very quickly. This means that the acting, the dialogue, and the character development have to be the main focus in my opinion, and this movie, The One I Love, nails it. When it comes to the thriller genre, one of my favorite bottle movies that focus heavily on the unraveling of one character is Patrick Brice and Mark Duplass's 2014 film Creep. A movie that they both star in, but Mark is the one that makes the movie, and I think you know where this is going. So who better to star in this film than Mark Duplass himself, one of the most underrated and underused actors in recent years. He co-stars alongside the very talented Elizabeth Moss, star of Handmaid's Tale, and I genuinely can't picture a different set of actors playing in this movie. And that's most likely because Mark Duplass produced the film himself, but that just adds to why he's perfect for this role. So the setup is there. We have two amazing actors, one who has done a great job in a similar role, and the other being a star-studded actress whose strong suit, I believe, is her emotional and physical acting. I told you guys this was weird but extremely unique, and you should guess by now that I really did love it, but now it's time for me to recap this entire film and try and figure out what the hell is going on in The One I Love. And I highly suggest you watch this movie first before I spoil everything, plot twists and all, but if you already have or you don't care, make sure to like and subscribe, and let's get right into it. So the film starts with our two main characters, Ethan and Sophie, who are seeing a marriage counselor played by Ted Danson of all people, and they're clearly in a rut. She feels like their happiness has to be recreated because it doesn't happen organically anymore, and Ethan is clearly on the defense, most likely insecure with the fact that his wife is falling out of love with him. After some compatibility exercises, it's revealed that Ethan made some mistake, most likely cheating, that Sophie has still yet to move on from, and she still can't fully trust him. But she wants to try. Ethan is just super stubborn. The marriage counselor sees that they need something new and exciting to bring that spark back into their relationship. So he hands him a brochure for a weekend retreat at this beautiful house that he has sent many couples to before, and it always seems to work, so Ethan and Sophie give it a try. Here's where we enter the bottle. The location is breathtaking and both seem full of life as they explore the house and the surrounding land. Ethan finds a tablet with pictures of previous guests that refound their love with their spouse, so both of them are very enthusiastic about the opportunity. Again, this movie places you right there with them, and I really like how they let the film breathe as you take the tour and get your first impressions as well. And remember, this movie is listed as a dark comedy, and I sort of got that impression in the first 15, but on first viewing I thought this was just going to be a love story, but by the end, I kinda miss how peaceful the beginning was. They're smoking weed, kissing, laughing, actually communicating, and generally just being happy with one another again. I'm telling you, these actors are so good and the story is written so well that you're really rooting for these two. As the night comes closing down, Sophie steps outside for a smoke as Ethan does the dishes when she notices the unmentioned guest house on the other side of the property. She walks over to check it out, and after she finds one of those Russian doll sets that happens to be like a running symbol in this movie, Ethan comes in and finds her. The energy is back. They have sex, they're dancing and playing around. It just really seems like this retreat is working. So they plan to sleep in the guest house, so Sophie runs over to the main house to grab some night clothes real quick. When she walks in, Ethan is already passed the fuck out on the couch. Weird, but at first she thinks it's just a joke, but is still very inquisitive on how he got there before her, especially without her noticing. Still, there's no cause for concern until Ethan reveals he was never in the guest house at all and says he doesn't remember them having sex this night. Just like her, we just saw them together, so of course she is on the defense, but he's in utter confusion, and this just leads to a storm out, and Sophie goes to bed in the main house. Ethan, knowing he's probably exiled for the night, goes to smoke a J in the guest house and passes out on the couch. In the middle of the night, Sophie comes crawling in, and they seem to have made amends from the fight. Next morning, she's cooking him breakfast, and at first seems to be on the same page with him that last night was really weird. At first we were looking at Ethan weird last night, but this morning as he continues to ask questions, she keeps dodging and acting suspicious. Now we're looking at her funny because Ethan doesn't really know what she's talking about. Was she too high and thought they had sex, or is Sophie just playing a prank? As Ethan continues to become more and more freaked out, he realizes she's cooking him bacon for breakfast, but she never does that because she quote-unquote hates when he eats bacon. He heads over to the main house, and there Sophie is, coming out of the bathroom in a completely different outfit. Now we're kicking it into high gear. Because this is clearly insane, he rushes them back over to the guest house and it's completely empty. No breakfast on the table, and we all know the smell of bacon doesn't go away in a couple minutes. But yet somehow it's like what Ethan just experienced had never happened. Sophie is still trying to work on their marriage, but after they go through the timeline, they see that they both had some Twilight Zone experience. Ethan does what anyone would do and tells her to stay outside the guest house while he goes back in. And you guessed it, Sophie is in there taking a shower. He comes back out to tell her that she was just in there and asked him for a towel. But she's mad and thinks that this is some sort of joke, but she reluctantly goes in the guest house while Ethan waits outside this time. And there he is doing sit-ups in the living room acting normal. And because it's literally her husband, she can't help but treat him like normal, but something is definitely off because he wants to close all the blinds and lock all the doors. Almost like they can't have both doppelgangers in there at once. She finally rushes out and they are tweaked. They pack their things up and they get the hell out of Dodge, but they stop at a restaurant and try and figure out what they just experienced and just chalk it up to a glitch in the universe, and they're just gonna go home and forget about it. But Sophie spent a whole night in that guest house with Ethan number 2 and she loved it. So Ethan 1 is jealous because in his eyes she had sex with someone else, but it's him, right? This is where the movie really starts to make you think, what would you do in this situation? And also, we can see the dynamic of them really start to change at this point in the movie. Sophie convinces Ethan that they should go back because he can't deny that he did feel very safe around Sophie number 2, and this is something unexplainable. They make their way back, and because Ethan is still insecure over the fact that she had sex with another version of himself, he goes in the guest house first. This is where we and they start to see how this works. So it's almost like Ethan 2 and Sophie 2 have no knowledge of what goes on outside the guest house or when the originals were together. Their timeline seems to stop and start when one of the originals comes back in or leaves. They also seem to be completely convinced that they are Ethan and Sophie. This is where it could get pretty fun if you think about it. Ethan 1 does what I think any guy would do in this situation and starts asking Sophie 2 questions to try and make her crack, but he's not really going too in depth, so it doesn't really work at first, but he tries to take her on a walk outside with him knowing Sophie 1 is out there waiting, but of course she denies. Team Original meets back up and Ethan wants Sophie to be extra inquisitive to Ethan 2 and ask questions only Ethan 1 would know. She doesn't want to ruin it though because she thinks that they might disappear if they overlap, but we know that Sophie 1 just really wants to see Ethan 2 again. They decide to set some ground rules for whenever either of them goes into the magical guest house. No intimacy, no sex, no spying on each other while the other is in there, always being honest about what happens inside, and if either of them ever feels uncomfortable, they call it off and leave. They're still testing it out and practicing trust, so Sophie 1 plans to go in for just 15 minutes and Ethan 1 is not allowed to spy. Ethan 2 just seems like a new man or just a better version of his old self. But 17 minutes pass and of course Ethan 1's insecure ass starts to get worried, so he starts spying and sees Sophie getting a semi-intimate massage through the window, but he's instantly caught. Their dynamic keeps changing, but Team Original quickly makes up. Sophie 1 starts describing her experience with Ethan 2 as like seeing memories of past Ethan, like the man he truly is in the guest house. And of course Ethan 1 takes offense to this because she's pretty much implying number 2 is better, but she doesn't see it that way. The only difference that she notices is the hair is slightly messier, but as an audience member, the difference is clearly Ethan 2 hasn't put on glasses yet, and yeah, he's just way cooler than Ethan 1. From here, I don't need to go scene by scene, but I'll go over the highlights for you. Ethan 1 is clearly still getting more insecure and hides his phone in the guest house to spy on Sophie 1. Sophie 1 and Ethan 2 play around with the Russian doll set some more. Sophie 2's noticeable difference is that her hair is pinned back. Then the audio Ethan recorded on his phone is static, alluding that you can't record Team 2. Ethan 2 asks Sophie 1 why she won't kiss him. Ethan 1 can't find any of the clothes that he packed. Ethan 2 starts texting Sophie 1, meaning that they have cell phones. I don't even know how that works. Sophie 1 asks Ethan 2 why he cheated in the past to see what he would say, and of course his answer is perfect. Sophie 1 is more and more different from Ethan 1, and he's starting to catch on because her ass is a terrible liar. Ethan 1 finds voicemails on his phone from family and friends even though he never called them, and they said when he called them, he was asking very weird and specific questions. This is where the movie starts to turn dark. Sophie 1 thinks that Ethan 2 would never do that and she really knows him, and this is clearly crazy, so Ethan 1 is kinda at his breaking point. He has to find out if she's been lying. He lies and says he's gonna go to the store knowing she will go straight to the guest house. So he runs around and sneaks into the guest house before she gets there, takes his glasses off and makes his hair look messier. Yep, you guessed it, they finally have sex. Ethan 1 is shattered and now thinks she's probably done other stuff with Ethan 2, even though we know that she hasn't. Ethan 1 then meets with Sophie 2 and confronts her and tells her she's not a real person, and she seems aware and the fourth wall is broken, but all she says is that she is his wife, so she does know everything. Ethan 1 goes over to the guest house because he just knows they're fucking right now, and he comes in and Ethan 2 disappears. Sophie 1 is now fully over the edge and says she's staying here with Ethan 2 and leaving. God, it is so hard to keep saying Ethan 2, Ethan 1, Sophie 1, Ethan 2, all this shit, but she wants to stay with Ethan 2 and she's gonna leave Ethan 1. I mean, we knew this is where it was going, but she turned pretty damn quick. I mean, geez, you're still not even questioning how any of this is possible, but hey, again, what would you do in this situation? So they go back to the main house and Team 2 is just sitting at the dining room table all smiles. And this scene was crazy, man, let me tell you. The fourth wall is now completely broken. Team 2 tries to act like there's no deceiving going on and says that they should all sit down for dinner and just talk about it. Mark Duplass is such a good actor, man, and the way Ethan 2 treats 1 like he's less than him, and Sophie 1 is just 11 out of 10 horny for Ethan 2, while 1 is just sitting there, bro. Again, it's so hard to say, but this scene is so funny. It's probably one of, if not, like my top 3 favorite scenes from the movie. Then this energy carries on over into the dinner, and Team 2 just keeps acting like none of this is crazy, and it's just an amazing cosmic experience, and he clearly has sinister intention. I'm talking about Ethan 2, but Ethan 1 just can't do anything about it, you know? Sophie goes to put her dishes away and has this trippy ass conversation with herself, and we now see how Sophie 2 really feels because she kinda hasn't had much to say this whole time. She tells Sophie 1 she pretty much knows what's going on and doesn't fuck with it, but she thinks that they should just keep playing along and see what happens. But she is really not fucking with Sophie 1. Then outside, the Ethans have their one-on-one confrontation, and Ethan 2 keeps saying he's not sabotaging Team 1's relationship, but he's very clearly winning Sophie 1 over. And somehow he convinces Ethan 1 to still join them for game night. I don't know why he would do it. But after some more very awkward and funny scenes, Ethan 2 finally goes for the kill. He reveals to Sophie 1 that the first time that they had sex, at least that she thought it was Ethan 2, was actually with Ethan 1 because he was so suspicious that he snuck in and pretended to be Ethan. Which, now that I think about it, like, that's not okay, right? Like, again, she did fall for the test, but is that R-A-P-E? I don't know. Knowing this relationship is probably over, Ethan 1 now just wants to figure out what the hell this place is. He called the counselor that sent him there in the first place, but of course gets no reply, so he goes to the main house computer to check through some... Wait, hey, Kobe and Vanessa? Bro, that's dope as shit. I did not notice that the first time I was watching it, bro. R.A.P. Kobe. But he clicks through and finds audio files of the counselor with 2 people practicing mimicking the voice of the couples, suggesting that they were manufactured or genetically engineered or some shit. But he finds his and Sophie's file, and it's so trippy hearing the people's voices change from someone completely different to an exact match of Ethan and Sophie. So this isn't some like cosmic experience, bro. This is a straight up setup. And at this point, Ethan gets locked in the guest house and it looks like it might be over for him. But the next morning, Sophie 2 comes in and tells him what's really going on. She's not his wife, and Ethan 2 is not supposed to fall in love with Sophie 1. Sophie 1 is just supposed to fall out of love with Ethan 1. When Team 1 falls out of love, Team 2 gets to leave and become the real Ethan and Sophie and live out their lives instead of being trapped here. Which that also means that Team 1 would be left behind and trapped here after they leave. I mean, wow, am I right? I hope that made sense. I really hope that made sense, but wow. But Sophie 2 wants to help Ethan get Team 1 out of there because she's still in love with Ethan 2 and doesn't want to see him with Sophie 1. Trust me, I was tripped out too. Especially when Sophie 2 says she's a real thing with real emotions. I really don't know what they are. But the more that Sophie 1 falls out of love for Ethan 1, the more trapped that he becomes. So they set up a plan. Sophie 2 dresses up in the clothes Sophie 1 was just wearing to distract Ethan 2. Ethan 1 is hiding upstairs to tell Sophie 1 what's really been going on. Ethan 1 is trying to convince Sophie 1 to stay with him, but now Ethan 2 finds out the plan, and this leads to an Ethan versus Ethan fight, which goes nowhere because it's literally 100% even, and they have this funny moment where they both realize it. But now the dynamic seems to shift to everyone versus Ethan 2 because he still has the underlying goal of escaping this place. So he says, fuck you guys, I'm out of here. He runs out and they chase after him until he smacks into an invisible wall that knocks him out and seems to have killed him possibly. They never answer that question. But now both Sophies are dressed the exact same, and instead of, someone saying something at all or asking some questions, one of the Sophies look down and the other Sophie is smiling at Ethan. So he just assumes, well, we all do as well, that he leaves with Sophie 1. And as they leave and drive away, the other 2 are on the ground, seemingly trapped there forever. Ethan and Sophie go back to the marriage counselor's office to confront him, but it's completely empty besides the piano. The screen cuts to black and we skip to Ethan and Sophie, and they seem happy, in love, and we're like, alright, movie's over. They found love again. Nah, of course I wouldn't pick a movie that just had a happy ending. Come on now, you know me. The biggest twist in the movie happens when Sophie says she'll cook breakfast for him, eggs and bacon. Ethan knows, we know, and as the camera focuses on this moment of realization, he puts his glasses on and says, I'll be right there. Hinting that I guess he's just gonna go along with it, but what a fucking cliffhanger, bro. Am I right? I'm telling you, bro, this movie is gas. So that was The One I Love, and after watching it a second time to write this video, I liked it even more, man. There's small details that I missed the first time, like in the first night, Sophie 1 tells Ethan 1 that she likes him better without glasses, so we never see Ethan 2 with glasses on. Then there's bigger ones like the bacon that I would be shocked if people didn't pick up on the first viewing, but this movie really focuses on the small details to differentiate the 2 sets of couples. But the reason I want to make a video about this movie is, 1, I've never seen a story like this. Maybe I'm just not aware of a different film, but this is an extremely extremely unique way to tell multiple types of stories. The falling in and out of love with a mix of supernatural occurrences where the stakes are at the level of like life and death. And it just adds to the movie that the acting is literally top tier. I would say this is a perfect example of a what would you do movie, and the best part is it's only 90 minutes. Everything is wrapped up perfectly besides the cliffhanger obviously, but I wouldn't want a part 2 or an answer to the ending. It's perfect the way it's told. Again, I highly recommend you go watch this, even though this video definitely spoiled every single aspect of the movie. It's still an amazing watch. I suggest you watch it with at least one other person so you can discuss your own theories and how you would handle it during the movie. I.e., guys, this is a perfect movie for date night, if you know what I mean. But at this point, I'm just repeating myself. I give The One I Love a must watch, of course, but if I had to rate it out of 10, I guess I haven't done that yet with movies. I give it like an 8 to an 8.5 probably, but shout out to Mark Duplass, man. He is so fucking underrated. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and let me know in the comments below your thoughts, theories, and critiques of this movie. I'm still busy working with the artist that I manage. I know I've talked about it in a couple videos, so I can't really promise when the next video is coming, but I already have one in the works. I can say that there's one that is probably 60 to 70% done on the script side, so make sure to subscribe and turn on that notification button for future content. I promise it's coming, I just don't know when. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time.